If there's one thing we can all agree on is we love Chill Ambient. After all, that's why you clicked on this video. You're curious about how to make it, what the secret is, and how you can begin to craft this style of track with all of its intricate rhythms all on your own. I remember when I first started producing this style of music. These types of tracks seem to be like magic. The problem with magic is it's hard to understand and we don't know how to recreate it ourselves. But what if I told you it's not as hard as you think? What if I also told you there are ways to create this style of music with the very same tools and synthesizers that you already have, such as Serum and Pigments, and create high quality, chill ambient tracks without having to reach for anything else? Well, my friends, that's the topic we're going to explore in today's video, building a chill ambient from scratch, starting by creating some glitch percussion in Serum, and then discuss how to build that into a full track by making a bass, a kick, and then adding a few melodic elements to round everything off. So, if you like this kind of video, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. As always, my goal with all of these videos is to make them as accessible as possible, so if you don't own any of the software that you see me using in the video, no worries. I encourage you to use what you have, and I'll always leave links down below in the description for all of the plugins that I use, as well as a link to my Patreon where you can find hundreds of other tutorials and preset packs. That being said, let's get into it. Chill ambient track tutorial. Enjoy. This video is made possible by the Signs of Life community on Patreon. Are you ready to take your ambient skills to the next level? Or maybe you're just starting out and looking for more tutorials for the absolute beginner? On Patreon, you'll not only find tons of exclusive tutorials and presets, but you'll also find videos on specific topics such as mixing, compression, arrangements, ambient textures and layering, and so much more. If presets and samples are your thing, you'll also find over 70 Patreon exclusive preset packs, as well as exclusive construction kits complete with MIDI files so you can get a head start on your next track. And finally, if you want personal one-on-one instruction for ambient, sound design, and music production, check out the Ambient Coaching tier. I've already changed the lives of hundreds of clients, and I know I can do the same for you. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today and join us. Link is down below in the description. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First things first, I'm gonna adjust my tempo to 83 beats per minute. So if you wanna follow along, it's gonna be 83. And I'm also going to set my push into B minor. We're gonna be playing in B minor here today, all right? So that's cool. And now the first thing that I wanted to do was show you how I created the glitch percussion. My goal was to create some glitch percussion without using samples. I just wanted to use a synthesizer. So for this task, I'm actually gonna use Serum. Now you could use any other wavetable synthesizer of choice. You can use Vital or Surge XT, something like that. But I'm gonna be using Serum here. Now, before we get into Serum, what I'm gonna do is put a step sequencer before Serum, all right? So for this task, I'm gonna use Stepic. Now, you could just even key in the notes here. You don't really need a step sequencer. But here in Stepic, what I'm gonna do is leave it on 1/16 and just leave it right here in C chromatic. And then I'm gonna adjust the velocity by randomizing the velocity. We're just gonna roll the dice here on this velocity to give us a really wide range. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this randomized velocity in a variety of ways back over in Serum. So I'm also gonna randomize the direction here by putting on the purple dice, which means it's not going to repeat. And that's looking pretty good. And I'm also gonna come over to the note divider here and add some note divisions, some ratcheting, and then put it on randomized direction to kind of give us a ratio. Sometimes it'll land on these ratchets over here that are at 2, and then this one's set at 3 to give us a really fast one. So that's pretty good. Now we got Step all set up. And what I'm gonna do is come back over to Serum here. Now, first things first, I'm gonna adjust the wavetable. So I have some wavetables here from my Patreon packs. You can feel free to use something from the default factory library. That's totally fine. And then I'm gonna use velocity to adjust different parameters inside of Serum. So I'm gonna drag velocity over the wavetable position here. That's cool. Maybe I can add a distortion mode like quantize, and we'll drag this over. That's cool. And what I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna up the octave here. You can play with the octave range if you want, maybe like +1, +2, or 3, it doesn't really matter. And we can also lower the sustain all the way down in the envelope, and then lower the decay down like a tremendous amount, like like 34. That's good, right? So now we got a really snappy envelope, and this velocity is going to be moving the wavetable position, the quantize. We can set velocity to ever so slightly move the decay there. That's cool. And let's go ahead and add some noise here. We can add some white noise and have velocity adjust the level of that white noise. So we're looking pretty good here. Let's go ahead and hit play and see what this sounds like. That's pretty good. I like that. Now you can hear it kind of still sounds tonal. So what I like to do to solve that is come over and turn on the filter and leave it on high pass instead of low pass and adjust the cutoff to taste, right? So that really takes the tonality out of it. And what we can do is take the velocity and adjust the position of that high pass filter. There we go. That's sounding really glitchy. I like that. Awesome. So a couple more parameters before we actually leave Serum. I'm going to turn on maybe the distortion here and a compressor. So let's add like a multi-band compressor. That's good. I like that. We can add some distortion here, putting on a diode maybe. And maybe the velocity can adjust the drive amount. There we go. I mean, you can go crazy here, right? This is just the tip of the iceberg, but this is how I actually set up the glitch percussion in the other track. But this is sounding good to me. I mean, you can play with adding a second oscillator, whatever you want to do. It's up to you, right? What we've just done is we've created some glitch percussion out of a wavetable synthesizer, all right? So that's cool. Now, the next step is I'm going to add some effects here to kind of really emphasize the whole glitch thing. And I've got this thing called the Glitch Effects Rack that I've created here in Ableton. And for that, what I'm going to do is come over here and turn off my camera so you guys can see this. This Glitch Effects Rack has a couple plugins. First of all, it has Automaton. And this is a preset called Additional Beats. All right, so I've been using this preset for a long time, and what I like to do is I like to take out the bit crush and the modulate and just leave the replicate and the stutter, all right? You can see that there's just replicate and stutter going on. This is a free plugin from Audio Damage. I've been using this for years. You can adjust the effects level here. That might be cool. And as you can see, the glitch percussion is really bouncing around our heads. There's a couple reasons for that. One is over here, we have the LFO. This LFO from Ableton is actually modulating the interval of this preset called microfills. This is in the beat repeat plugin inside of Ableton Live. So you can see the LFO is modulating the interval, which can create some really cool glitch percussion effects. And finally, the auto pan is brought to you by Bleece Motion Effects, right? So I have this set to pan right here, and it's randomized at 26%. So it's sort of taking all of these different samples and auto panning it back and forth, left to right. And when it's all said and done, you've got a really nice glitch percussion track, all coming from both Stepic, just spitting out 16th notes, and Serum with some randomized velocity. So now let's go ahead and create a bass. Now you can use any synthesizer you want here. I'm gonna be using Serum. So let's grab a fresh instance of Serum here. And the first thing I'm gonna do is lower down the octave, like 1 octave. And then I'm gonna up the unison to like 6. So up the unison to like 6 and adjust the detune amount. Next, I'm going to add a filter. And for that, we're gonna add like a low pass 18. That should be good. We can up the drive amount a little bit, up the resonance a little bit. And already you can hear that sounds pretty close to what we want, right? So let's go ahead and play the glitch percussion track. And you know what? I'm just gonna go with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the recall here by hitting record new, and that's actually gonna make a 4-bar MIDI clip, and that's exactly what I want. So let's go ahead and drag this back over. That's cool, and we can quantize this. Let's go ahead and put this into 8th notes. There we go. That looks good. I think this should be good to go here. There we go. Tidy this up a little bit, and we'll make this a 4-bar MIDI clip. So we'll lower this down to 4 bars here. There we go, 4 bars, perfect. And we'll go ahead and crop the clip. Awesome. And now let's go ahead, one more thing. We're going to select all and hit Control U. And now we have a nice, perfect. All right, cool. Excellent. let's get a little bit more movement here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to add some hyper dimension here. That might be cool, okay? Add a compressor here, with multi-band compressor. Okay, lower down the highs a little bit. Excellent. And what we can also do is we can add some LFO movement, some really subtle LFO movement, right? But what'll really take this to the next level, I learned this from a random guy on YouTube. So shout out to the random guy on YouTube who actually taught me this, is we can adjust the note value here and make kind of a cool shape like this. We can find our lowest note, right? Move this over a little bit. Cool. And what we can do is grab the note and we can apply that to the rate of the LFO. So what's gonna happen is this is going to, I'm gonna make this unipolar. This is gonna actually speed up the LFO the higher the notes go. So check this out. So the lower note gets the low, slow LFO, right? You can adjust this right here, right? So that's a little faster. And that's a little slower. You see how that works, right? So this is note placement, right? The note source. And if you use that in terms of where the notes are in space, it really creates a kind of a cool effect. You make this a little more extreme. Nice, I like that. So that's nice and subtle. And that's pretty much all you need to do for the bass. I mean, really it's adjusting the detune amount, you know, adjusting your unison, make sure your filter is adjusted properly. And yeah. That sounds great. Let's go ahead and put this through the bass bus, put this through the drum bus, and yeah, we're ready to go. So next up, we're gonna work on our kick drum. Now for the kick drum, I'm not gonna get too technical with it. You can feel free to use some samples here. I'm gonna grab a drum rack full of existing kicks that I have in my library. So I'll go ahead and grab it. It's just called the kick rack. And what you can do here is actually use Stepic to sequence your kick drum. And then we're gonna use Stepic to actually sequence a supporting bass sound as well. So I'm gonna grab Stepic here and we'll put Stepic before the drum rack. And what I'm gonna do is turn off the drum rack for a minute. And what I like to do is just randomize here the on-off note messages, right? But what I can do here is instead of having it on or have all these on, is I can set it to continuous, which means it's going to hold the note for however long you have these blue spaces right here, which is really interesting because you can have some quick snappy drum hits and then you can have some long ones. And this is really gonna play in, we actually add our bass sound to support our drum. So let's go ahead and just hit play here. We're gonna turn back on the kick and see which one this. That sounds good. This is a sample from the Triaz library. We could go with that. That sounds cool, right? You can add multiple patterns here. You can go really crazy with it if you want to. But what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna add a secondary bass sound. And for that, I'm gonna grab Serum again, of course. And I'm gonna grab Serum. And what I'm gonna do here is just quickly rough in a bass sound. So we'll go ahead and just add a filter here. We'll make it 24, lower it down, up the drive, up the resonance a little bit. We're gonna lower the sustain all the way down. And then we're gonna drag this envelope up to the cutoff here and make it sort of just a snappy low bass. You can lower the octave down, maybe 1 or 2 octaves. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna drive this sawtooth bass with Stepic. And that's why I added some of those continuous steps here was I'm gonna use this. So let's rename this Stepic. Okay, I'm gonna rename this Stepic and use it as my MIDI source here. So I'm gonna set MIDI from to Stepic and then put that as post effects, that's good, and put it to in. And now, if I lower this down a little bit, set this to the bass bus, lower it down a little bit, you're gonna hear, right? Now here's the other trick that we got to do. So what we can do in Stepic is we can actually, since we like our bass sound here in C chromatic, right? What we can do is we can manually set this to make it the note that we exactly want. So what we can do here is come over to the global tab inside of Serum and turn off the pitch tracking for both oscillator A and oscillator B. Now what we can do is we can say, all right, we're playing in B minor. So what is B minor? B minor is -1 semitone from C. So now you can hear that it's kind of flopping around. What we can do is come back over here and adjust the octave range here, right? And that note there, plus 2 octaves minus 1, is actually B, which makes a perfect bass sound, right? Cool. Now we can go ahead and turn on oscillator B, make this maybe a analog BD sine, right? Sounds good, perfect. So now we have 2 oscillators that are both tuned to B, and they're playing exactly that MIDI that we set up over here in Stepic, right? So you have that perfect supporting bass kick to your kick drum. It's happening at the same time. That's exactly what you want. So now that we've got our rhythm foundation all set in place, it's time to add some melodic elements and really get into finishing out the rest of our track. So now let's go ahead and add a really cool dub stab to our track, all right? So for this task, I'm gonna use Pigments. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab an instance of Pigments here and drag it over. And while Pigments is loading, let's talk about the dub stab. So I used to think these were complicated until I realized that a dub stab is nothing more than just a filtered sawtooth with some delay and reverb. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit new preset here and drag the basic waveform over to the sawtooth, which is this straight line right here. And then we're going to lower the sustain all the way down and maybe increase the decay a little bit and lower the filter cutoff. Now, if I just go ahead and play a chord here, here we're kind of halfway there already, right? So we can go ahead and lower this down a little bit more. And what we're also gonna do is add a second envelope here by kind of just keeping the decay right where it's at. And we're gonna drag envelope 2, right over here where it says a sign right in the middle. We're gonna drag that over to the filter and leave the filter here on low pass 24. And that should be good right there. Sounds good to me, okay. We can add a couple more voices of unison if you want, lower the detune amount down. That sounds great. Okay, cool. So we can also increase the amount of engine 2 here and switch it to wavetable and maybe leave this as sine wave for now. We can kind of leave it like that or put it on square wave. That might be really interesting. And we can also put that through filter 1. That's cool. We can lower the level down a little bit. There we go. Cool. That sounds good. Perfect. Okay. Excellent. We can put an LFO if we want to on this one. So what we can do is for the retrig source on the LFO, we can switch it to free running, which means it's just going to be running all the time. And then where it says rate hertz, what we can do is right click and click straight only. I like to use straight only because it kind of removes all those like half beats in there and just leave it at 4/1. And now we can take LFO1, hover over it in the middle and just drag it over to the cutoff and lower the amount down. So now our LFO is getting a little bit more bright and a little more dark, you know, every step that we make. Now, let's go ahead and add some effects. Now, I'm gonna use some effects, external effects that I have as send effects. The first one is gonna be, of course, my Valhalla delay here, which is set to a dotted 8th note dual delay. I always use this one. I'm also gonna be using the FabFilter Pro R2 with a preset from Cinematic Space. You guys have heard me talk about this in a previous video. All right, this is the launch of Farewell. Cool, so I can go ahead and increase the amount here. Let's go ahead and increase the A and E amount and put it through the synth bus. Go ahead and hit play. That sounds good. Excellent. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna make a new MIDI clip here and it's gonna be set to 4 bars. Now what I like to do is just set this to 8th notes and just kind of watch the MIDI clip go by and kind of intuitively feel where I wanna put those actual stabs. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit play here and you're gonna see the playheads going by and we're gonna choose where we wanna put our notes. Check it out. Might be good right there. Cool, so I'll switch the color here to blue so we can actually see the notes. Let's switch to blue and let's go ahead. We're gonna put this right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and use draw mode here and we'll go ahead and just draw in a minor chord here like that. And maybe we'll use like this chord right here. That might be good. This is a minor 7th chord. There we go. Perfect. And we'll go ahead and hit another one right here like this. And the LFO will take care of that. There we go. So let's go ahead and hit play here and now hear what this sounds like. Nice. Excellent, excellent. We can adjust the level of that LFO so it doesn't get too dark on us, right? So we'll go over to LFO over here. There we go. Excellent. Increase the filter envelope. There we go. Nice. And that's really all there is to it. I mean, you don't have to get too crazy with the dub stab, but it sounds really good though. Some extra reverb and delay. Oh yeah. I like that. Perfect. Excellent. So to finish off our track, we're gonna add 2 more melodic elements. The first one is gonna come from Serum, and the second one is gonna come from Diva. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab Serum here for our first melodic element. Let's go ahead and drop it on an empty track. Very good. And let's go ahead and just add another wavetable here, just a random wavetable from the Patreon series. That looks good. And we'll go ahead and just filter this out. And we'll go ahead and add a low pass filter here, increase the drive amount a little bit. That looks good. And what we'll do is we'll lower the sustain down and just make this sort of like a pluck, like a playful pluck that we can add some delay and reverb onto. And what we can do is just add an LFO. We'll take LFO 1 here and move it across the wavetable position. And we'll lower down that amount to like 4 or 8 bars. Doesn't really matter which one. And that looks cool. And what we can also do is instead of low pass, what I thought we might do is just do a band pass. That might be really interesting, right? So we'll kind of move this band pass filter. What we can do with the same LFO, because it's set to 8 bars, is we can move that LFO across the filter. Now, if you hit Shift Alt click or Shift Command click on a Mac, you can move this around so it becomes bipolar, right? And now what I'm gonna do is grab a MIDI clip. I already have a MIDI clip that I've already made. You can go ahead and key in the MIDI clip yourself if you want to just add some notes here, but I'll go ahead and add this MIDI clip here. And what I'll do is I'll put this through the synth bus. I'm using the utility template for Ableton Live and increase the delay amount and some reverb. And let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like. I just keyed these notes in. Very simple, right? Nothing crazy. We can go back over to Serum here and see what's going on. Because we have this filter as a bandpass filter, it's really limiting the amount of range that we're getting out of that, but that's kind of what you want with a melody line because you don't want it to disturb too much of the bass, and you definitely don't want it too much on the high end to disturb the glitch percussion. This is cool. We can lower the octave down. That might be cool. I like that actually. Increase the drive amount. Nice. Add a sub oscillator maybe. Excellent. Oh, I like that. There we go. Sweet. Excellent. All right, cool. Let's add one more element, all right? Lower the volume down here. Nice. We're gonna add a step sequence. We're gonna go real classic for the end of this. We're gonna go step sequence. I'll drag this over to an empty track. And what I'll do is I will use Diva. Now, I love Diva. Diva is one of my favorite synthesizers of all time. And I've really been getting back into Diva lately. I mean, Diva is just a solid synthesizer. It always sounds good. So what I'm gonna do is hit a knit right here. And what we're gonna do is switch some of these to make it a little more friendly. We're gonna put these on analog here, and we'll put this on Cascade as well. And then I'm gonna switch this to the dual VCO. Now, we can go ahead and just dial in something real quick. Doesn't have to be anything like super crazy in Diva. We can adjust the cutoff here, and we can use LFO2 as one of our modulation sources. So what we can do is make sure the depth mod is all the way down to the left. And for restart on our LFO, we're gonna put it to sync and make this 4/1. That should be good, right? And now we have a little bit of this increased here, the LFO2 amount on the filter. And what we can also do is we can say, all right, well, envelope 2 is also gonna modulate this. So let's make a quick little filter envelope. That might be good for our Pluck. And adjust the amp envelope right here this is gonna look pretty good. All right, cool. So we can obviously adjust this cutoff to taste. We can increase the envelope 2 amount. So now we have both envelope 2 and LFO 2 affecting our cutoff filter. As you can see, both of these are connecting, going right to the cutoff. It works really easy. And for the shape, we just made a triangle saw with a sine wave here. So it should sound pretty standard. So what I'm gonna do back in Stepic is come over here and adjust this to 8 notes. And we'll go ahead and make this 1/8. And we'll just go ahead and key in some simple notes here, nothing too crazy. We're gonna make this B, let's see, B minor. And we'll go ahead and add those same notes there. There we go. And we'll go ahead and adjust the velocity here, maybe randomize the velocity, or actually make this intentional velocity, lower some of these down, and then make those, there we go. That should be good. Cool. So everything's looking good, and I'm pretty much ready to fire this off. Let's go ahead and increase the delay here, increase some reverb, and put it through the synth bus. And yeah, for the final reveal, let's go ahead and give this a play. Here we go. Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. You hear that? That's Diva right there. Oh. I love it. So as you can hear, we have a little octave adjustment, but that's Diva, y'all. You can adjust the amounts here, play with the LFO amount, but that LFO is moving it up and down at a rate of 4/1. Envelope 2 is making it nice and snappy. Oh, oh my goodness. And that's all there is to it. I mean, think about where we started. We started with this beautiful glitch percussion track over here, right? Using Serum and Stepic to make some really cool glitch percussion. And then we added a nice Reese bass with Serum as well, using the unison to our advantage and some LFO modulation. We used Stepic to create a kick drum and a kick drum bass drum to support our kick drum. We added a dub stab here with Pigments. That was really cool. We added a really cool melody line with Serum, and we rounded it all off with a sequence in Diva. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you enjoyed this tutorial, let me know in the comments down below. I love hearing from you guys. And if you love this kind of tutorial, you guys are in for a treat. This year is gonna be banging full of more tutorials just like this one. Chill Ambient, Space Ambient, you name it. We do it all here on Signs of Life. If you're really looking for some extra tutorials and want to take your ambient skills to the next level, I do have a Patreon page where you can find tons of tutorials just like this. I do these every single week. A lot of the times I do extended cuts on my Patreon, early access to all of my videos, hundreds of ambient presets over there, and I also do one-on-one coaching as well. So if you're looking for that personal touch and really need some coaching, I'm here for you. Check out my Patreon page. Man, this was a good one. You guys are great. And yeah, thanks for watching, y'all. As always, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. I'll see you guys again real soon. Take good care.